Good morning. Welcome to day 6 of Purpose Driven Church. Today we're going to finish up chapter 1, and we're starting at page 44. So in the previous video, Rick Warren had talked about sharing the vision at the first service and talked about how important it is for a leader to be able to have a vision and share a vision that people can relate to. And even when he was doing it during his dress rehearsal, he was so intimidating for him. He said he felt very scared. He was doubtful, like, is this really God's vision? Who am I, this 26-year-old guy? But he decided not to look back from that point, just to go forward. And they did their first service on Easter Sunday, and 205 people came, and it was just kind of a mixed feeling experience. He says they had a mixture of excitement, fear, and awe, but they really felt like, wow, this is really going to work. Like 205 people came. And he said it was interesting though, because they had targeted the non-churched or unchurched group of people. So he's there doing a service, and he's like, everyone open your Bible to such and such a verse, or let's try to sing this song. But he says that when he asked people to open their Bible, nobody had one. And when he tried to sing songs, no one sang because they didn't know the words. And then when he said, let's pray, many people just kind of looked around. And he didn't really feel like he was giving a church service at all. But to his amazement, people kept coming back, and they're doing their service in a school theater, and people little by little, he's teaching, and people are becoming Christians, and they're getting baptized and things like that. And they kept growing and growing. And it's interesting, he also talks about, that was the beginning, right? But then over the coming years, Saddleback also continued to grow and go through many different experiences, and they had to go through what he calls growing pains. He says that over the course of the next 15 years, they used 79 different facilities. And that included high schools, elementary schools, bank buildings, rec centers, theaters, community centers, restaurants, large homes, professional office buildings, and stadiums. And eventually, at one point, they erected a high-tech tent that could fit 2,300 people, and they had 4 services in that tent every weekend. Crazy. He jokes and says, yeah, we often said that Saddleback was the church you could attend if you could find us. But he really uses this point to emphasize that it's not about your building, it's not about your your property. It's about the people. People are more important than property. And he says that Saddleback grew over the course of 15 years, grew to over 10,000 members, attenders. He says, without even owning a building. But at the same time, they had to really look at their situation, because they were focusing on people who didn't have a Christian background, or maybe they left at a young age or something like that. They had a lot of basically kind of infant Christians that they had to take through the process of maturing and kind of coming to the point where they could share their faith with other people, but also kind of go through the process of, instead of being taken care of, and taking care of others. And he says that was a really big kind of turning point for them. And he says that, I'm going to quote here, our sanity and survival depended upon developing a workable process to turn seekers into saints, turn consumers into contributors, turn members into ministers, and turn an audience into an army. Believe me, it is an incredibly difficult task to lead people from self-centered consumerism to being servant-hearted Christians. It is not a task for faint-hearted ministers or those who don't like to get their religious robes wrinkled, but it is where the Great Commission is all about, and it has been the driving force behind all that has happened so far at Saddleback. And one of the things I really like about this book, which we'll get into a little bit later, is that he shares a lot about what is the process to take people through, basically like a maturing and a nurturing process to bring people from a point where they're just there to listen to service, but they don't necessarily want to give anything back, to a point where they're, leaders, and they're making a big difference, not just in that church, but like in their lives and in their communities and whatnot. So I look forward to going more into that, and that's all I have for today. Thanks very much.